Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I got a really good viewer suggestion for a video the other day that I thought I would address today because it is a topic that's gotten a lot of attention lately, the last couple of years. Fishing finesse jigs with your Ned rig has caught on fire. A lot of people are doing it, having a lot of success. And the question was, when do you throw the Ned rig on a finesse jig versus just the standard Ned rig? Thought it was a really good question. And I thought it was one I would address because I don't know that there's a 100% specific time to throw one versus the other, but I do know I have had days where one really outperforms the other. And I'm going to give you some background and some personal experience as to when and why I've seen certain ones work better than other ones. So when I got the question, I thought, hey, I'm going to address this because I do think it's an interesting topic and one that's pretty relevant because a lot of people are fishing both of these nowadays. So let's give you a little bit of background on the Ned with the jig, the finesse jig. So for years, we've known that the Ned rig is a really good fish catcher for all species of bass. You catch little ones, you catch big ones. It just excels, and it's like that little snack. You put a little M&M in front of me, I'm gonna eat it, just like you put a little Ned rig in front of a bass, they're gonna eat it. Well, it wasn't too long ago. I mean, the last couple of years, I'd say, where the finesse jig with the Ned really caught fire. And it has a lot more to do, I'd say, starting in the smallmouth world, where guys were fishing it, say, up on the St. Lawrence River and catching a lot of better quality size. I think you don't catch as many fish, in my experience, but your average size goes up a little bit. But what we've seen now is that this has really caught fire for largemouth and spotted bass as well. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One, from a profile standpoint, to me, I'm actually mimicking different forage species. The Ned rig to me is one of the best imitators of minnows, so actual fish, because it just glides through the water column. But I also think it's a really good imitator of a leech, especially in smallmouth country. Smallmouths love leeches, and it's a really good imitator of a leech. When you throw the finesse jig on it, to me, it changes. It becomes a better imitator of some of your bottom dwelling fish that have larger heads, like the sculpin and the goby. And it also imitates your crawfish much better. So to me, your forage species that these are imitating are a little bit different. The next has to do with the fall rate. So the Ned rig, I've talked about this on my channel before. To me, one of the biggest mistakes a lot of anglers make with the Ned rig is throwing a mid-weight jig head, meaning something in the eighth ounce size, I'll say. I personally think you either want to go as light as possible, so a 16th ounce, a 20th ounce, something so light that the bait just glides to the bottom, or you want to go the opposite and go much heavier, a quarter, 3/8 ounce, where you get this thing to fall like a missile to the bottom. So from a fall rate standpoint, if you were to throw these on the exact same jig head, you're going to have a slower fall rate with the jig. You've got more mass, more volume. It just your skirt acts like a drag in the water column and therefore slows down the fall. Now, generally speaking, I don't want that if I'm fishing clear water. So if I'm fishing clear water, I generally prefer to go with the straight Ned rig. And by clear water, I'm talking very clear water. So anything that's got, say, 5 foot of visibility or more. And the reason for that is I just feel like it has much more natural movement, flows through the water column better. If I'm fishing a little bit off colored water, I do think your skirt helps because it does slow up the fall and it just creates some more volume in the water, pushes more water, and therefore I believe that the bass have a better ability to pick up where that bait is in water that's a little bit more off colored. Um, so I think that's critical. But you also have to keep in mind that the skirt also does a couple other things. So if you're fishing moving water, and I think this is one of the reasons it's so good on some of your smallmouth rivers, if you're fishing current, that current keeps the skirt moving. So you always have some movement. It gives it a much better lifelike motion, but it also helps prevent you from getting snagged as much. The skirt creates that bulk as it rolls down the river in the current. It allows the bait to kind of float from rock to rock versus your straight Ned rig, which will actually dive down into the rock. So if you're fishing, say, a same weighted jig head with both of these, in current, you're going to get snagged less with the jig. So from that standpoint, something to keep in mind. Now, having said that, if I'm fishing shallower water, say I'm fishing, I'm going to say 10 foot of water or less, you can go with jig heads that are so light on the Ned rig that they almost don't ever even touch the bottom. So it really comes into play as to if I'm fishing deep, over 10 foot of water, more like 15, 20, 30 foot of water, and I'm throwing the same head size, I actually think the jig itself is much more snag resistant and it flows better along the bottom. Now, that's not always what you're looking for. It is important to pay attention to how you're generating bites. In some instances, I actually think you're better off getting the bait to stick to the bottom where you actually have to snap the rod to get the bait to come undone. Now, when that releases, that's a really good time to generate a lot of your strikes. So, in some instances, maybe you actually want your bait to start getting hung up on the bottom more. A lot of places, if you're fishing shell beds or gravel, you can drag that bait to where it sticks to the bottom and you very rarely actually get snagged to the point you break off, but it sticks and you can pop the bait free and that generates a lot of strikes. And that leads me to one of the ways I love to fish a Ned rig, which is I let it go to the bottom and then I snap it. I'll actually rip the rod to get the bait to come high off the bottom. And when I do that, the bait will go up 5, 6 feet and then glide back down with its really tantalizing fall. So for me, if I'm fishing in that manner, I would much rather fish a Ned rig than a jig because the jig, you're going to stroke the jig up and all that skirt material is going to slow the bait down and it's going to have a slower fall to the bottom. Generally, if you're snap rigging a bait or snap jigging a bait, a faster fall is usually going to help you in that circumstance. So again, depending on how I'm fishing it, if I want my bait to get up off the bottom, I like a Ned rig. If I'm trying to maintain bottom contact, I like the jig better. A couple other things just to keep in mind. Generally speaking, if you're throwing a finesse jig, so this is the Picasso Little Spotty finesse jig, one of my favorites. It's a tungsten ball head, works absolutely wonderful with your Ned rig baits. But if you're talking finesse jigs, you generally have a little bit stouter weed guard in them than you would if you were to get a weedless jig head for your Ned rig. So in this case, the tungsten Little Spotty has the titanium weed guards. You can see it with a little drip of epoxy on it. This allows me to fish it in heavier cover than I would most standard jig heads that you would put that are weedless on a Ned rig. So if I'm fishing heavier cover, I like the jig as well. So maybe I'm fishing around laydowns, maybe I'm fishing, around some holes in the grass, that type of thing. I think the jig will outperform in that case. In that case, uh, but it comes down to, angler preference. I think both are really good. There are a lot of similarities when you look at these two. You got a skirt versus no skirt. So I think in the majority of instances, you're probably going to generate the bite in either case. But I do think, when you consider if you're fishing current, how deep you're fishing, the water color that you're fishing, the cover that you're fishing, you'll find that one will outperform the other. Um, that's my take. I'd love to hear from you guys as well. In this case, don't forget about your little Ned rigs like this little Maxent, the General, and don't forget about your little finesse jigs where you can put your favorite Ned rig like the little General on your little favorite finesse little jig like the little Spotty. Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear from you. In either case, they are both fish catching machines that I love to use, especially during the summertime period. And if you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned. We'll have a new one coming out tomorrow.